Chair recognizes Representative Phillips to speak in opposition to the amendment.
I know I've said enough on this in a lot of areas, but I want to talk about somebody who's an Aggie. His name's Thump Witcher. His family has had farmland for generations in Fannin County. It's going to be flooded. And until you visit families who are losing their land and having to give it up at no choice of their own, maybe you'll know why we're passionate about this. It's gone. So this is not something that's just in a theory to protect people in a city. This is thinking about people who are real Texans. We are Texans, Mr. Larson. We divided in 16 regions. Those regions need to work together. Right now, there's no reason why your region or any other region would have to work with mine if they can get bureaucrats in Austin to make a decision to build reservoirs. I think we need to fix this. They're building a lake, 2 lakes in Fannin County. They built a lake in Delta County. They've got plans to build 2 more lakes. That's the 10th smallest county in the state. They said, oh, you'll have all this recreation. The Corps won't let them build around Lake Cooper. It's oftentimes a mud hole. It's just filling and silting back in. And you know what? Once that land comes out of use for agriculture, there aren't any more property taxes paid on them because municipal districts don't pay it. So our local communities lose tax revenue once they flood those lands. We don't have that anymore. We're not sitting here saying we're not want to work together. And my communities have worked with Dallas. They've worked with the regions, and we're trying to come up with solutions. If we don't have a seat at the table, we can't have that happen. Think about this. The lakes that are built right now in Fannin County, one's been approved and the other's going to be approved. They're going to flood the farmland, right? Now, who decides what happens, whether you can put a boat dock on that, whether you can have trees around it, whatever. It's not anybody that is elected by the communities of Fannin County. And I don't think that's fair. My folks live on Lake Palestine. It's a Neches River Authority. At least they can go to the governor who appoints the board members or to their senator and say, hey, they're not treating us right around here. We don't have a say. This will give us a say. And if this does not pass, and I think it should stay on, please commit to us, Mr. Larson, and the rest of you, to respect our property rights, respect our say. If it wasn't for Thump Witchers and those citizens who've had tears and they've cried and they said, if you stand in their home and you know it's going to be flooded, taken from them, that's why we're upset about this. It's not because we don't care about
Representative
Texas.
Anderson, for what purpose?
Will the gentleman yield?
Yes,
Phillips,
sir.
Gentleman yields.
Thank you, Representative Phillips. It's very interesting that when it was suggested that because of some members were saying that in the previous amendment that there was a 3/4 standard level as opposed to, say, simple majority, and when that was suggested, it fell on deaf ears.
Right. It was suggested, let's just have a 50%. Our region, this region wants to say, I'm in 2 regions. And unfortunately, the one with Fannin County, I'm in Region C, so this wouldn't even apply to that county. We've already been run over. We've already been smushed into the ground. We've already been laughed at and taunted and said, we're going to do this. And they've not treated people well always. Sometimes they have. And we're confused about it. We're dealing with 2 different entities building 2 different lakes. They don't have the money to hire law firms to make sure that they're following the law correctly. It's just tough on us. And that's all we're asking is for assistance. This will help at least one of my counties have a say in it.
Absolutely, I agree with you. Would you agree, Representative Phillips, that the fact that changing that standard to simple majority fell on deaf ears speaks volumes, that there is no real intent to try and find a reasonable solution here, that it's might makes right? Would you agree with that?
I would. This is 2/3. Understand, let's think about this. So I've got a widow lady that owns a place. You know, we're going to take this property. You better take this money, otherwise you're going to have to sue us and go to court. So these widows are giving up, then they don't have any place to go. But that's okay because you're saying you're going to compensate them, right? You're not compensating because they don't know enough. The wealthy landowners are going to wait around and they're going to get maximum money for their property. So think about these are citizens we're talking about. Farmers, ranchers, widows. We're just asking for
And would
We're
you
asking
agree
for a
that
say.
Representative Simpson's amendment gave a reasonable standard and a reasonable format to debate these issues and provide for reasonable compensation?
Yes, sir. Two-thirds is reasonable.
Would you also agree that if we're talking about land or water now, that we'll be talking about land, that we'll be talking about forestry, we'll be talking about livestock? I mean, if a larger...
Well, those cows will be gone, the crops will be gone, and in rural Texas, it will be continuing to go away. Now, the question is, one of these days the shoe's going to be on the foot. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's going to be over minerals. Maybe it's going to be other things that we're going to need that we don't know about. We need to think about how we're treating those that are in the minority here just because you're in the majority. We got to work through this, members.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Sheets to close.
Mr. Speaker, members, I won't beat a dead horse. I'll just let you know the amendment that we're considering is my amendment to strike Mr. Simpson's amendment. So if you are opposed to Mr. Simpson's amendment, I'm asking that you vote yes with me on my amendment, which will strike his amendment. Please vote yes. Move passage.
Question occurs in the adoption of the Sheets amendment. Strict enforcement and a record vote has been requested by Mr. Simpson.
Strict enforcement. Strict enforcement.
Clerk will ring the bell. Please vote from your desk. Strict enforcement has been requested. Please vote from your desk. You'll have plenty of time. Have all members voted? Have all voted? Strict enforcement, please vote from your desk. Please vote from your desk. Please vote from your desk, Mr. Keogh. Have all voted? There being 77 ayes and 59 nays, the amendment is adopted.